Well, Russia says it's disappointed with US President Barack Obama. That's because he cancelled next month's one-on-one meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. A top Putin aide says it's clear the move was prompted by Russia's decision to grant asylum to US intelligence leaker Edward Snowden.
U.S. officials admit it's mostly because of Edward Snowden, the man who told the world about U.S. spying, granted asylum in Russia. But they insist it's also because of fights over Syria, missile defense, and human rights. The Russians call the decision disappointing. It's a new low for a relationship the Obama administration had said was critical to reset, even using a prop to prove the point at the beginning of his first term.
However, the White House has said there was more to the decision than that.
Major issues were not teed up to make significant progress on the level of a president-to-president summit. And that wasn't a constructive step to take at this point.
These things are actually.
Former CIA contractor Edward Snowden, who was holed up in a Moscow airport for weeks, faces criminal charges in the US for disclosing details of secret surveillance programs. Moscow's decision to grant him temporary asylum has irritated the White House, but there are other issues, such as Syria and Iran.
She said her government will host a meeting of Russian foreign and defense ministers on Friday in Washington as scheduled. Many senior U.S. lawmakers have supported Obama's decision. Washington says it'll continue demanding Snowden's extradition. Putin's presidential aide, Yuri Ushakov, is disappointed at the summit cancellation. Ushakov said the decision clearly shows the U.S. is not prepared to develop relations with Russia on an equal basis. But he said the invitation for Obama to visit Russia still stands and that Russian representatives are ready to continue working with their U.S. partners on all key issues.
Areas of disagreement between Russia and the United States, ranging from inability to reach mutual satisfactory terms on everything from missile defense to Syria to Washington's concern about the situation of human rights and democratic rights here in Russia. So Snowden, in effect, was the kind of icing on the cake for U.S. officials that made the summit meeting seem unwise, if not rather pointless.
As the White House was expressing its deep concern over the Snowden situation and asking Moscow to turn him over to the United States, the language was really quite restrained. This was something that was done on a law enforcement to law enforcement tact. It was the FBI director, then Robert Mueller, who was talking with his Russian counterpart. Quite a contrast to, if you remember, when China did not turn him over when Snowden was in Hong Kong. It was a much harder, much more confrontational tone. I think that the Obama administration felt that there was a good chance that the Russians would ultimately relent and turn Snowden over, and were quite blindsided by the decision to grant him this one-year asylum.
I was disappointed because, even though we don't have an extradition treaty with them, traditionally we have tried to respect if there's a lawbreaker or an alleged lawbreaker in their country. We evaluate it and we try to work with them. They didn't do that with us.
In that same interview, the president spoke out forcefully against Russia's gay propaganda law, which outlaws, quote, homosexual propaganda.
I have no patience for countries that try to treat gays or lesbians or transgender persons in ways that intimidate them or are harmful to them. Now, what's happening in Russia is not unique, but one of the things that I think is very important for me to speak out on is making sure that people are treated fairly and justly, because that's what we stand for, and I believe that that's a precept that's not unique to America. That's something that should apply everywhere.